Hello, my name is Travis Rogers, and this is a submission for learner development. So, in the previous evidence, you've been able to see how I was able to use learning from our Hopkins courses, especially using the brain target theory model of 21st century schools. You've been able to see how I planned the lesson plan and the learning experience for my students using the Mr. President story. And I really wanted to incorporate multiple levels of development and also recognizing how they learn. So we wanted to explore key details in a variety of ways, and you'll see that in the student work that I want to present. So you saw in the unit plan how we used videos and both readings to get to our stories. So I just wanted to show you some examples. First thing I want to show you is the story that we used. Now I don't know if you noticed this page, but this is one single page, and we were actually able to fit two stories, one about George Washington and the other about Abraham Lincoln. And um, not only were they able to read the story, but the requirement was to pull two key details from the story about each president. So as you can see, they're underlining what they think are key details. Moving to the back, you'll notice that from those, I mentioned earlier that they had to pull two key details from each president to add an extra layer of rigor and excitement to the activity. I had them take that information and compare one thing that is similar about George Washington and Abraham Lincoln and what is different. And just to read it, it says George Washington and Abraham Lincoln were both presidents of the United States. And for non-fictional text, we really talk about extracting details from the text. And then it says things that are different. George Washington was born in 1732 and Abraham Lincoln was born in 1809. And the fact that they were able to put that in chronological order and matching the right date to the president, I think speaks volumes to our learning, especially for first grade. And as you can see, as all work in the drafting process, we make sure that I'm giving them feedback, so we were able to check that work as we went along. So that was the first activity. The second activity was a video, which again is mentioned in the unit plan. But we watched a video on Brain Pop about George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, and from there they were pulling key details from the story. Now, in most first grade classes, the focus for the curriculum, I should say, is drawing with labels. But I want to add, I'm always looking for ways to push the rigor and to create more excitement in the areas of linguistics, emotional, and physical areas. So we're moving to the carpet, and now we're pulling, not only are we getting drawings with labels, but now we're also adding sentences, because we know that in the writing cycle, first we read, find key details, and then we start with pulling ideas, which is a graphic organizer. From the graphic organizer, we start and we move into making our books. So from the information that we learned, from our reading and from our videos and the notes that we took, now we're up to final books. And I just wanted to show you some of the books. Just to read the book, and this is the work that I showed you is a continuation of this student. So this was his story, then his key detail breaking down similarities and differences, then moving into the video that we watched and getting three key details from there. We've been able to put a full book together. So this book says Abraham Lincoln was the president. Abraham Lincoln's nickname was Honest Abe. Abraham Lincoln was the first president to be shot. Unfortunately, that is something that is accurate to Abraham Lincoln's history, and so we did learn about it. But he also added he freed the slaves. So we're getting a full range of history and getting both the exciting things that we like to talk about in education, but also some deep things to really continue to push that constructivist thinking and learning, and also the culture-oriented learning. So just to show you some more books that my students have made, fortunately I can't share the names, although they all signed media releases, so if I'm able to release those names, I will. But we did some really good work. George Washington was the first president of the United States. He was born in 1732. That's over 250 years ago. He draw maps too. He sees where others live. And so as you can tell, this is one of my high flyers. And now we're seeing variation in the story, because I want to give each student a chance to share their perspective of their learning. And even, some people are writers, some people are artists, some people have strength in other areas, but I want to make sure that everyone is represented in my classroom and that everyone is in the learning activities. The next page says, Abraham Lincoln was the 16th president of the United States. He was born in 1809 in a log cabin in Kentucky. And so not only was this student able to share their reading, you see a fusion of notes from both the video and the story. And when I mean the video, I meant the notes that you'll see, the notes that you have seen. Here's another one, another student. And the cool thing was the way I was able to integrate art into the curriculum, which I didn't think was possible at first, was now they were able to choose their own color of the book to start with, because I want to make it unique to them, but also they have a full creative license to make drawings but there's one stipulation: the drawings must match the words, of course, and that's just the math lesson that we always do. Our drawings match the words, match the pictures, match the numbers. So George Washington was Martha Washington's husband and first president. And just moving through some other books. And this one I'm especially proud of because it's from one of my IEP students. At the beginning of the year, I didn't know that he could talk. There was severe gaps in his learning, both linguistic and academically. There were just a lot of things that we needed to work on. The way he expressed himself in the beginning weeks of our interaction was very misplaced, and often created challenges for the rest of his learning. Luckily, I was able to bond with both him, his brother, and his extended family. And through that relationship, we've been able to create some work. So, now, this is a student that has multiple services, multiple academic services pull out in small contained for both math and reading, was diagnosed with ADHD, and is high functioning on the autistic scale. But the fact that we were able to create books and have him be enthusiastic about learning